Today I want to find out if I can make a cinematic vlog without color grading at all. I'm shooting on the Fujifilm X-H2S now, and I will tell you my settings later in the video, because there is something special about Fujifilm, which is why I want to try that out with this camera. We went for sunrise today on the Jatilubi rice terrace here. Not that it did anything, it's like the first day really where I have clouds in the morning. That sucks. But still, like the mountains here, as you can see in the background, they look super good. And that's Amelie. She films Leica. I never saw someone filming with a Leica. Has some autofocusing problems though, but I love the colors when I take pictures with it. I found the red line district. Let's have a look what's up here. So when I fly my Avata here, I had some problems yesterday, crashed in the sand at the beach and stuff like that, like the usual, you know. But it looks beautiful here. Love that. It's actually my favorite rice terrace on Bali, not the Telagalang in Ubud, because Ubud is so overrun by tourists. There are swings everywhere. That's not Bali anymore. This here is Bali. This is beautiful. Here I see the limits a little bit. When I don't shoot in log, I would have to make it way too dark to really get the sky here. That's definitely not that good. So if I would shoot in log now, let's do that for a moment. So now I shoot in log, and when I color grade it, you see that is actually a bit better. So there are definitely downsides if you shoot in a normal picture profile or in a film simulation as it is on the Fujifilm right now. Now the reason why I want to try that with Fujifilm is because I have those film simulations, because when we're talking about cinematic videos, I want to go for a film-like look, and you get that with those film simulations in Fujifilm cameras. I must say on Sony also the S-Cinetone profile is pretty nice, but it needs a bit more tweaking in post, not just contrast and saturation adjustments, but you also have to give it more of a look, while on Fujifilm cameras you can actually dial in the look directly in camera. So right now I have the camera set to classic chrome with dynamic range 400%, and I also use the highlights and saturation curve to make it a little bit flatter. Oh, they're starting the drone now. We got it up and running. Yoo-hoo. After 1 year of not charging the battery.
Yeah. Don't say this to anyone.
Okay, the drone shots are in log, so I will have to color grade them, but I will keep it really minor, just applying a LUT and some quick adjustments for exposure, saturation and contrast. Nothing more. I want to spend less than 15 minutes to color grade this video. And again, none of those normal shots from my Fujifilm, they will not be color graded at all. No crash yet, that's good.
No, not yet.
You're doing a selfie or what?
Yay! Woohoo!
Woohoo! I always turn the drone around before I hand catch it, because then it goes in the direction where I press on the controller.
Yeah.
Oh, it works too.
My brain gets like...
Yeah, it was actually my first drone crash. I was flying backwards, and then when you press left, you go to the right and the opposite. And so I pressed right and I went straight left into a tree.
This is happening.
Just a little tip, if you're starting with drones and you bring it back, point the drone away from you so that it flies exactly where you press on the controller. Today is actually a good example why you should also go for sunrise, even if it all looks bad, like cloudy weather, maybe even rain. We actually had rain on the way here, because even if it feels like you might not get a good sunrise, it can actually turn out really good, especially when you get something like we just had here, where the sun falls through the clouds and you get this nice sun rays everywhere and so on. You never know how it will actually look like, so just go for it. Now that I don't shoot in log, I can also use much smaller file sizes. I just noticed on my 1 terabyte SD card here, I get 20 hours in normal 4K 24 and 10 hours in 4K 60 when I record in HEVC 100 Mbits or 200 Mbits. That's definitely an advantage of shooting directly in a picture profile or a film simulation. Okay, here the rice fields are not full of water, so I think I can risk an Avata flight, a test flight at least. Whoa.
This is starting well.
Ooh, I'm so happy I did not crash despite this motor. I think a big problem of the Aveda drone is wind, really. Like, I crashed it 2 times this week. One time on Potter Island with this nice viewpoint where we had a lot of wind and I was already scared of flying, and there's suddenly the drone kind of collapsed or something. I don't know how I should say it. You see the footage here. And it landed in a tree. And the same happened yesterday. We also had quite strong wind at the beach, and that also suddenly fell out of the air and just crashed into the sand. That makes me scared of a drone.
Let's go. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih kembali.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Okay, there.
Did you catch the shot at least?
I got the shot. Camera is good.
Oh man.
But yeah, my foot is a bit wet now.
Okay.
Finding out if I can shoot a cinematic vlog without color grading was only one goal for today. The other one was to dive Bali's highest waterfall with my FPV drone. I had quite a few crashes over the past few days with it that were out of my control, so I was worried, but I also didn't want to miss this chance. Okay, the drone is up there. I'm so scared. Oh, I did it!
How do you feel?
Feel relief. It's so good that you can fly up in normal mode and just have a look and get comfortable with the drone. But then it's still like, oh my god, if I switch to manual now, what the f? Yeah, bushes everywhere. But then you realize it's actually a lot of space. It just looks that tight because you have this wide angle lens, and then you just go for it. Good that I did it, man. I love that. It was like something that I was waiting for probably a year to do. That are the moments when you feel alive. I think we made it. All right, we're nearly there.
We're still alive. Almost.
It was a good coconut after the hike. There's one more thing that I've noticed during the shoot with the Fujifilm, and that is that you have this dynamic range 400% option with a base ISO of 640. And there is this base ISO 1250 when you shoot F-Log 2. So isn't it possible for Fuji to come up with a dynamic range 800% option with a base ISO of 1250? That would be awesome for shooting videos like that, because like the dynamic range felt a bit limiting sometimes, but I have to look at it on my computer, because judging that on the small monitor is always a bit hard because the shadows always look a bit too dark. It's at least what I noticed also by shooting in F-Log 2. So I would say let's now go home and have a look at the footage on my computer to come to a conclusion. Whew. I just finished editing the vlog, and to be honest, I have mixed feelings. I mean, overall it's not bad. It definitely looks a bit better than most vlogs that I see where people just use their standard settings and probably even set the camera to automatic and so on. But my problem after some testing is really the dynamic range 400 settings that I used in that vlog, because even when shooting outside and there's still not that much dynamic range, there is a ton of noise in the footage, at least in the shadows. Like overall, you probably won't see that on YouTube after the compression hides it. But I see it and I don't like it. But I did a few tests, and what I figured out is that when you set the dynamic range setting to, or the DR setting in the menu, if you don't know that it means dynamic range, if you set that to 100% instead of 400, then obviously you get a bit less dynamic range, but you can lift the shadows in post, and there's actually quite a good amount of detail in there, especially if you shoot in 10-bit 4:2, even if you choose the H.265 100 Mbits codec. That's perfectly fine, the quality is good enough. I was actually able to lift quite a bit of detail out of the shadows in my test shot. So If I would do a vlog like that again, where I don't want to color grade that much, then I would choose Classic Chrome again with Dynamic Range 100, but I would spend a tiny bit of time in post to lift the shadows. Of course, it's then not completely without color grading. You still have to do a little bit, but it's also not that bad overall. So I think that's a good solution there. But to be honest, the solutions when you shoot an F-Log 2 are also getting better and better. I mean, overall the Eternalot doesn't look bad, and it's not that hard to color grade actually, especially if you don't want to do that much. You just quickly adjust the exposure and done. And also Film Convert just released a camera pack for the X-H2S, so if you want to have really nice colors very quickly, then that's also a good solution. So yeah, for me, I will continue shooting an F-Log 2 all the time. It just looks so much better to me when I shoot in log and I color grade a little bit. Yes, it takes more work, but in my opinion, that's the better way to do things. And by the way, if you want to learn how to color grade your footage without wasting too much time, I recently did a video here, so watch that. And I hope to see you in this one and my other videos. Also, don't forget to subscribe. See ya.